Hi, welcome to my word bubble of cognitive development theory and socioculture theory. So first we're going to start with Pignett, who was a philosopher or a thinker in the 1930s who went in to really look at the study of genetic embryology. Sorry, I just butchered that. I'm trying my best. So this is the origins of thinking. So this is really where it starts. And so he really wanted to look at children opposed to adults. And he wanted to see how children conceptualize the concepts that they learned. And his theory really focused on children's development. Not really their learning, but how they grow up and then in turn learn things. And he's really looking at the stages of development, which are these things over here. And so he tried to explain how an infant develops into a person who can comprehend reason. And so this is really what he was looking for, how a child can develop from an infant all the way to an adult and then know how to critically think and think through their problems. So when we get into this theory, it first starts with schemas, which are basically the building blocks of intelligence. They're an organization of knowledge. So within your head, you know how to do certain things. And schemas are those things you know how to do, whether they're actions or whether they're just things you know. That is a schema. And so babies do start with some. I should be more specific. Infants start with some. But throughout their lives, they learn more and more schemas. And so you can see this over here. Increases more the more ideas you learn. So a baby might know how to cry right in the beginning with this schema, but a baby doesn't know how to crawl yet. And so that would be a schema learned. And so script is a good example of a schema. It's basically, the example is if you've played a game you've already played. You already know the rules and you know how your body works. So you can replicate that and use that knowledge to do it again. And so basically what these schemas move into in the cognitive development theory is your adaptation to the world around you and how you interact in it. So that leads to these two ideas, assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation is using an existing schema to learn a new object or idea. Basically what this means is that if you know how to play the piano and you know how to play piano keys and you know how to read music, you already have a leg up on how to play the guitar because you're going to use the knowledge you know how to play the piano to learn the guitar. And so you can already read music and you already have a rough idea of how the notes work because you might have some ear training so you can hear the notes. So you can build off of those ideas to learn the guitar. But accommodation is when a schema isn't working and needs to be changed to fit the situation. Now this is the opposite of that basically. So let's go back to if you're learning the guitar. So you knew how to play piano, but the guitar fretboard is much different than the keys. But you can still use that knowledge, but you need to change your situation to learn. So your schema on how to play the actual guitar is not working on how you know how to play piano. So you must adapt to the guitar. And this leads to equilibrium, which is basically the balance between these two ideas. And this is truly where learning happens. So when you're learning guitar, if you're able to build on what you know of piano and learn new things and try different ideas on how to play the guitar, you could learn how to play the guitar over time. It wouldn't come easy because playing instruments is difficult. But if you already know how to play the piano, you have a leg up than somebody who's never played an instrument. And so let's move into the stages of development. And so we're going to start with sensory motor stage, which is birth to age 2. So basically, you're an infant to a toddler. And so we're going to look at object permanence, which is knowing an object is there even if you can't see it. So let's say you're crawling around as a 1-year-old baby and you know that there's a ball behind the couch, but you can't see that ball, but you know it's there. That's object permanence. And so that is one of the first things that Piaget learned, basically. That was the first thing he noticed. And so then it moves into pre-operational stage, which is from age 2 to age 7, which is symbolism. You're able to conceptualize certain ideas in your head and put meaning behind them that may not be true. So that could be like naming something based off a nickname that may not be its actual name. And so from age 2 to age 7, you're able to do those things. And then to concrete operational stage, which is age 7 to age 11, you can work internally, and not only physically. So before age 7, let's say you're doing a math problem like 1 plus 1, you would need to actually do it on the paper to help and write it down. But now, in this stage, you're able to go 1 plus 1 equals 2 just off the top of your head. And that is the new skill you've learned. And so this also added to this is trial and error. At this stage, people can learn how to use trial and error to learn things, which is really important. So lastly is the formal operational stage, from ages 11 plus to adolescents and adults, so all of these things, which is can think through abstract topics and theorize about the world around them. So this is truly critical thinking of the today world by our standards, that people are able to think critically and reason based on what they currently know. And so this is how all of us think now, but this starts to happen after age 11. And so the last thing we're going to talk about in cognitive development theory is discovery learning, which is basically learning by doing, which is essentially when you get out there and you want to go build a house, the only way you can really know how to build a house is by doing it. And that's what really makes this part important. And that goes into cognitive development theory. All right, now moving on to socioculture theory, which first we got to start with the zone of proximal development, which is the difference between problem solving by yourself and problem solving with your peers. When you think differently, sometimes you need help. And so this could be when you solve things on your own, you think differently than when you're going to do it with a peer. As a team, you just subconsciously know that it's a little bit different than when you're just by yourself. So that's what really plays into socioculture theory. And then so culture tools are basically the things in the real world that can help people learn. So this would be like if I wrote down TV on here, so you can learn things from TV. But another thing is like if you're in a low income school, you might have to learn strictly from textbooks, whereas other people can learn from the internet and can learn things based on the internet and things they read. So that could be a cultural tool. And then over to the line of national regression, which is basically when help is taken away from the learner, they'll learn on their own, but still not do as well as they would have with assistance. Which is basically if you take a test, right? You might know all the things before you took the test. You might know everything on the study guide because you had all that help. But then when you're put out in the classroom to take the test, you no longer have that assistance, so you may not do as well as you were doing with that study guide. And so all of this leads into scaffolding, which is the main point of this entire thing, which is basically the training wheels of learning, is the easiest way to help, because this is basically all the knowledge that you have that is built on top of each other, and once it is taken away, it can help a struggling student, just like right here. Instruction can help those struggling students who aren't able to do it on their own, and the scaffolding is that instruction. And no strategy is best for students. Learning is not one size fits all. So some students might need a lot of scaffolding and other students might not. And it's an educator's job to recognize what their students are good at. So the applications. So this is where we get into collaborative learning. So students may need to collaborate to learn their scaffolding, to learn the basics of what they're doing. And so then we go into reciprocal teaching, which is basically summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. So this is all the kind of critical thinking that students may need to learn the information, and that the best instruction these students may need to learn the information and build that scaffolding so they can know whatever topic you're talking about. So that is sociocultural theory, basically. So this has been my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.